Hey guys, it's Lauren, and today I'm going to show you how to execute the ship editing style. This is the style that my editing account was based on for a really long time, and I'm so excited to teach you guys about it. Let's get right into it. So the first 3 transitions I'm going to show you how to do are parallel transitions. This is where you're transitioning between 2 clips in which the ship is in a similar position. So first, I'm going to show you the edge raise method. So like I said, you want 2 clips and you want them arranged on your timeline like this so that there's a little bit of an overlap right here. So the first thing you want to do is click on your second clip and drag your time indicator to the beginning of it. Then hit T on your keyboard to go to opacity. Add a keyframe for opacity and change it to around 50%. Then drag your time indicator forward a couple of frames and bring the opacity back to 100. Highlight both of your keyframes and then right click on one of them, go to Keyframe Assistant and then click on Easy Ease, and you create this fade effect between your clips. Now, making sure you're still clicked on your second clip, go up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and in Effects and Presets, look up an effect called S_Edge Raise. This is a Sapphire plugin, so if you don't have Sapphire, you won't have this effect. Then add this effect onto the adjustment layer. Drag your time indicator towards the middle/end of your first clip, so like right here. Then add a keyframe for raise brightness and make it 0. Making sure you're still clicked on the adjustment layer, drag your time indicator to the very first frame of the second clip and change your raise brightness to around 2. Then drag your time indicator to the middle/end of your second clip and bring the raise brightness back to 0. Hit U on your keyboard to view these keyframes, then drag your time indicator to where your first keyframe is. Then add a keyframe for center XY. Click on this little rectangle right here and then click towards the left of the center, so about right here. It's going to add a little dot. Then drag your time indicator to where your last keyframe is and drag this dot towards the middle of your clip. Hit U on your keyboard again so you can view both sets of keyframes. Then Easy Ease all of your keyframes. And this is what it should look like. Next, we're gonna do this color trail yflip. So for this, you want 2 clips and you want them arranged on your timeline like this. And if you have Twixtor on them, what you're first going to do is pre-compose both of them. So just right click on pre-compose, and make sure you're clicked on this circle and this square. Then make sure to reapply motion blur on both of the clips. So starting with my first clip, I'm gonna hit Command D on my keyboard to make a duplicate. Then making sure I'm clicked on the duplicate that's on the top, I'm going to click on my pen masking tool. Then I'm just gonna make a mask surrounding my characters. Now I'm gonna go back to my selection tool. Then I'm gonna hit F on my keyboard to go to feather, and I'm gonna change the mask feather to 8. Then click on where it says mask 1 and hit Command C on your keyboard to copy it. Then click on the duplicate layer on the bottom and hit Command V to paste. Then caret down on mask 1 and make sure to invert the mask so you now have the background. Now click back on the duplicate that's on top and make sure to enable 3D. Then hit R on your keyboard to go to all the rotations. And towards the beginning of the clip, add a keyframe for Y rotation. Then hit O on your keyboard to go to the end of the clip and change your Y rotation to around 65. Easy use these keyframes. Then go to your graph editor. I'm going to edit this in terms of speed graph, so if your graph doesn't look like mine, just click right here and click on Edit Speed Graph and just follow my graph. Now just pre-compose the 3D layer. Making sure you're still clicked on the 3D layer that we just pre-composed, you're going to duplicate it twice so that you have 3 copies in total. We're not going to do anything to the one on top, so you can just click on the one below that and move it to the right 1 frame. Then click on the one below that and move it to the right 3 frames. Now in Effects and Presets, look up an effect called Fill and add that to both of the layers that we just moved to the right. So now you can decide the colors that you want for your color trail. I'm gonna click on this red box right here and change one of my colors to a light blue. Then I'm gonna click on the other clip and I'm gonna change the color to a light yellow. And it should look like this. Now you just wanna repeat the exact same steps for your second clip, except you wanna do your Y flip in the opposite direction. So since I did 65 for my first clip, I'm gonna do -65 for my second clip. And instead of shifting these 2 layers to the right, you're gonna shift them to the left. I'm just gonna speed through doing the second clip, but feel free to slow the video down if you wanna see it step by step. And this is what it should look like. Next, we're going to do this mask slide down transition with dotted lines. So for this, you're going to need 2 clips and you want them arranged on your timeline like this. Again, if you have Twixtor on your clips, just make sure to pre-compose them. Starting with our first clip, hit Command D on your keyboard to make a duplicate. Making sure you're still clicked on the duplicate on top, click on your pen masking tool, and just like before, just make a mask. Then go back to your selection tool and hit F on your keyboard to view mask feather and then change it to 8. Then make sure to invert your mask. Now on the clip below that, I'm just going to do a slide down transition. I'm going to speed through this part, but again, feel free to slow down the video if you want to see it step by step. Now click back on the clip that's on top and go up to Layer, New, Shape Layer. Then click on your pen masking tool. And just like before, you're gonna make a mask outlining your characters, but this can be a much rougher mask. It does not need to be perfect. Then go back to your selection tool. Caret down on the shape layer, then caret down on contents, caret down on shape 1, and then caret down on fill 1. That was a mouthful. Then change the fill opacity from 100 to 0. Now caret down on stroke 1 and change the stroke width to around 15. Change the line cap from butt cap to round cap. And then here where it says dashes, click on the plus. Increase the dash from 10 to around 45. Then at the beginning of the shape layer, add a keyframe for offset at 0. Then drag your time indicator to the end of the shape layer and change the offset to around 50. Now in Effects and Presets, look up Drop Shadow and add that to your shape layer. Change the distance to 10 and the softness to 20. And this is what it should look like. Again, you need to follow the exact same steps for your second clip, except now you're coming down from the slide transition. I'm just gonna speed through this part. And this is what it should look like. So now for some miscellaneous transitions, we're first gonna do this double diagonal slide. So for this, you're gonna need 4 clips and you want them arranged on your timeline like this. The 2 on top should be the clips that are gonna be a part of your diagonal slide, and the 2 on the bottom should be the clips in the background. So first off, I'm gonna pre-compose both of my diagonal clips because they have Twixtor on it and I have to make a mask, and Twixtor and masks are not compatible. So starting with the clip on top, I'm gonna go up to my pen masking tool and I'm just gonna create a diagonal mask. I'm gonna adjust it to my liking. Then I'm gonna go back to my selection tool and I'm gonna hit M on my keyboard to view the mask. First, you're gonna drag your time indicator to where you want the mask to be fully revealed and add a keyframe for mask path, and don't change anything about it. Then drag your time indicator back to the very beginning of the clip and add another keyframe for mask path. And now you're gonna make your mask thinner. Ease these keyframes and go to your graph editor. Make sure you're on speed graph and just follow my graph. Now move this clip towards the right side of your screen. Now in Effects and Presets, look up Drop Shadow and add that to your clip and change both the distance and the softness to 30. And now I'm just going to pre-compose this clip. Now I'm gonna follow the exact same steps for the other diagonal clip, which is this one right here. So I'm just gonna speed through this part. So for the slide part, you can either use Blur Mo Curves or Position in Transform depending on what your preference is, but I'm just going to use Blur Mo Curves. So I'm going to look up Blur Mo Curves in Effects and Presets and add it to both of my diagonal clips. Starting with this one right here, I'm going to bring my time indicator towards the beginning of the clip and add a keyframe for Shift X at 0. Then I'm going to hit O on my keyboard to go to the end of the clip, and I'm going to decrease Shift X so that my clip is on the opposite side of the screen right here. Then I'm going to hit U on my keyboard to view these keyframes and easy ease them. Then I'm going to go to my graph editor. On your graph editor, drag your time indicator to the very first frame of your second background clip. And this line right here is where the peak of my curve should be. So just follow my graph. I'm also going to lift this square right here just a little bit. Now I'm going to click on my next clip, which is this one right here. And again, towards the very beginning, I'm going to add a keyframe for Shift X at 0. Then I'm going to hit O on my keyboard to go to the very end, and I'm going to increase my Shift X until my clip is on the opposite side of the screen, which is right here. Hit U on your keyboard to view these keyframes and easy ease them. Then go to your graph editor and again drag your time indicator to the very first frame of the second clip. Now follow my graph. And make sure to drag this part down just a little bit. Last step, click on this clip right here, which is your second background clip. Then drag your time indicator to the very beginning of the clip and hit T on your keyboard to go to opacity. Right at this point, add a keyframe for opacity and make it 0. Then drag your time indicator forward a couple of frames and bring the opacity back to 100. Then just easy ease these keyframes. And this is what it should look like. So next we have this 3-clip slide in with fade outs. For this, you're of course going to need 3 clips and you want them arranged on your timeline like this. And first, I'm just going to pre-compose all of them because I have Twixtor on all of them. Now I'm going to click on my rectangle masking tool and I'm going to create a thin rectangular mask of the focal point of the clip. Now on this top clip, just look to the left where you can see this eye icon and just click on it so the eye disappears. The clip will disappear momentarily so that we can see our clips in the background and mask them as well. So I'm going to click on the clip below it, which is this one right here, and I'm going to create another thin rectangular mask. Then, just like before, I'm going to click on the eye icon so we can see this one in the back. I'm going to click on our last clip and again create a thin rectangular mask. Then I'm going to re-enable the view on all of my clips, and I'm going to go back to my selection tool. So now I'm going to manipulate the positions of all of my clips. I'm going to drag this one to the left side of the screen. I'm going to drag this one to the middle of the screen, and then I'm going to drag this one to the right of the screen. And you want to make sure you have a thick black line between each of your clips. So for this part, you can either use position and transform or blur mode curves to do your slide-ins. I'm just going to use blur mode curves, so I'm going to add blur mode curves to all of my clips. I'm going to make this one on the left start up, then slide down. At the very beginning, add a keyframe for Shift Y, and I'm going to decrease it to around -700. Then I'm going to drag my time indicator about 1/3 of the way through the clip, and I'm going to bring my Shift Y back to 0. Easy ease your keyframes and then just follow my graph. On this same clip, hit U on your keyboard to view your keyframes and drag your time indicator to where the second keyframe is. And this frame right here is when this second clip is going to slide up. So I'm going to hit U again to hide these keyframes, and then I'm going to click on this clip. Right here, I'm going to add a keyframe for Shift Y, and this time I'm going to make it +700. And then I'm going to drag my time indicator another 1/3 of the way forward, and I'm going to bring the Shift Y back to 0. Hit U on your keyboard to easy ease these keyframes and follow my graph again. Now for the second clip, I'm going to crop it at the beginning so that it starts right when the first keyframe starts. Then I'm going to drag my time indicator to where the second keyframe is. I'm going to hit U to hide these keyframes and click back on my top clip. I'm going to hit U on this top clip so I can highlight both of the keyframes and hit Command C to copy them. I'm going to hit U again to hide the keyframes. Then I'm going to click on my third clip on the bottom and hit Command V to paste these keyframes. And just like we did for the second clip, I'm going to trim the beginning off so that the clip starts right where the first keyframe is. Now click on the clip that's on top and go up to Layer, New, Null Object. Then I'm just going to trim off the excess of the null object layer using Shift Command D. Then highlight all of your clips, click on one of these little spirals and drag it towards the null object layer and then let go so that all your clips become attached to the null object layer. Now click on the null object layer and hit S on your keyboard to go to scale. At the very beginning, add a keyframe for scale and keep it at 100. Then hit O on your keyboard to go to the end and bring your scale to 130. Then easy ease these keyframes. Now hit P on your keyboard to go to position, and hit I on your keyboard to go back to the beginning of the null object layer. Then add a keyframe for position at the beginning, and increase your first position value just a little bit. I did to 1180. Then hit O on your keyboard to again go to the end of the null object layer, and now decrease your first position value until your third clip is fully in frame. So like this. Again, easy use these keyframes. Now click off of the null object layer and click back on your first clip. On this top clip, drag your time indicator so that it's a couple of frames before the start of this clip. Then hit T on your keyboard to go to opacity. Right at this frame, add a keyframe for opacity at 100. Then drag your time indicator so it's about halfway through your second clip and bring the opacity to 0. Then easy ease these keyframes. I'm also going to hit Command C to copy these keyframes. Then I'm going to click on my second clip, and staying on this frame, I'm going to hit Command V to paste them. And now I'm going to drag my time indicator so I'm about halfway through my last clip. I'm going to click on this third clip and again hit Command V to paste my opacity keyframes. And this is what it should look like. And for our last transition, I'm going to do a split screen time slice. So for this, you're going to need 2 clips and you want them arranged on your timeline like this. And for the clip that's on top that's going to be splitting in half, I'm going to pre-compose it because I have Twixtor on it. Making sure you're still clicked on this clip, hit Command D to duplicate it. Now go to your rectangle masking tool. For the clip that's on top, I'm going to mask the left half of the screen. I'm going to click on where it says Mask 1 and hit Command C to copy the mask. Then I'm going to click on the clip below it and hit Command V to paste this mask. Then I'm going to click M on my keyboard and click Invert Mask so that we get the right side of the screen. For this next step, you can either use Position or Blur Mode Curves, and I'm just going to use Blur Mode Curves. So I'm going to look up Blur Mode Curves in Effects and Presets and add it to both of the clips on either side of my screen. Starting with the clip on top, at the very beginning, I'm going to add a keyframe for Shift X and I'm going to keep it at 0. Then I'm going to hit O on my keyboard to go to the end of the clip, and I'm going to decrease the Shift X to around 1000. Hit U on your keyboard to view these keyframes and easy ease them. Then go to your graph editor. Now just follow my graph. Now just highlight both of these keyframes and hit Command C to copy them. Then just paste them into your other clip. Hit U on your keyboard to view these keyframes and drag your time indicator to the second keyframe and change it from -1000 to 1000. Now in Effects and Presets, look up Time Slice. This is a Sapphire plugin, and just add it to both clips on either side of your screen. And this is what it should look like. Now we're going to go over some lighting and camera lens effects. I'm going to use all of these through an adjustment layer, so just go up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And first we're going to do an S flicker and S shake combination. So in Effects and Presets, just look up S_flicker and just add that to your adjustment layer. Then change the flicker amplitude from 0.2 to 0.1. Then in Effects and Presets, look up S_shake and add that to your adjustment layer. Make sure to click on this box that says Motion Blur. Then carrot down on Tilt Shake and change this first value from 5 to 0. And lastly, change your shake amplitude to 0.1. And this is what it should look like. Next, we have the film damage effect. In Effects and Presets, look up S_film damage and add that to your adjustment layer. Bring the grain amplitude to 0, as well as the stain density, the hairs, and the scratches. Then change the shake amplitude to 0.1. Lastly, in Effects and Presets, look up Motion Tile and add it to your clip, not the adjustment layer. Change both the output width and height to 250, and this is what it should look like. Lastly, we have the light leaks effect. All you have to do is drag a light leaks overlay into your timeline. You can find a couple linked in the description in the form of a mega link. Fit the video to the frame of your composition. Then right click on the light leaks overlay and go to blending mode. Then choose screen. And this is what it should look like. So now let's get into some text effects. Before we begin, I'm just going to recommend some fonts that you guys can download for free from dafont.com. And these are fonts that I always use in my ship edits. So just click on your clip and go up to Layer, New, Text, and just type in what you want it to say. Then highlight your text and scroll down to where it says Character. I'm first going to change my font by clicking right here and typing in the font that I want to use, so I'm going to be using Will and Grace. Then I'm also going to mess around with the size of my text. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then you also have the option to change the color of your text, but I'm just going to leave mine white. I'm going to go back to my selection tool and make sure snapping is enabled. And I'm just going to move around my text so it snaps into the center of my composition. Now scroll back up to Effects and Presets. And first we're going to add drop shadow to our text layer. I'm going to change both the distance and softness to 30. Then look up an effect called Emboss. I'm going to be using Sapphire Emboss, but you can also use Stylize Emboss if you don't have Sapphire. And I'm going to add that to my text layer. Then I'm going to drag this little red dot closer to my text layer. So now let's get into the actual animations. These are all just presets that actually come with all versions of After Effects, so there's really no work that needs to be done here. And the first one is this 3D flip. In Effects and Presets, just look up 3D random and it should show up right here. Then add that into your text layer. And this is what it should look like. If it's going too slow for your liking, just click on your text layer and hit U, and then just bring the second keyframe closer to the first one, so it'll go a little bit faster. Next, we have this foggy effect. In Effects and Presets, just look up foggy and add that to your text layer. Again, if it's going too slow for your liking, just hit U on your keyboard to view the keyframes and bring them closer together. And this is what it should look like. Next, we have this evaporate effect. As you can probably guess, you're just gonna look up evaporate in Effects and Presets and add that to your text layer. And this is what it should look like. Now we have this exploding text effect. In Effects and Presets, look up explosion. You can either use explosion 1 or 2, they're just 2 different types of explosions. And just add that to your text layer. And this is what it should look like. And the last text effect I'm gonna show you gives like this strobe effect. In Effects and Presets, look up office light and add that to your text layer. And this is what it should look like. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And please continue to comment other tutorial requests down below. Bye!